Right.
Good to see you, Gioma. Who else is present? Taki?
Yeah, I'm present, just in pain.
Great. Oh, you said you're in pain? Oh, I'm sorry. It's great you're present, though. I hope you feel better. Who else? We have Shani? Are you there, Shani?
Yes, I'm here. Somehow it restarted, but I'm here. I can see and hear.
Super. Catherine, do we have anyone else that's a member? Everyone else our guests?
I think you've gotten everybody that's a voting member.
Okay. So the minutes have been circulated. Does anyone have any changes to the minutes? Okay, the minutes are approved unless there's an objection. Any objection? Unanimous consent, they're approved. Local.
Hey, everybody. Hello.
Oh, hey, Adrian. How are you?
I was trying to get in there, but I'm here for the moment. I will be probably blinking in and out.
Super. It's
Yes.
good to see you. We
Good
just
to see you. Yay.
We have a quorum, and I see Rhonda's on now. Let's see if we can hear Rhonda. We couldn't hear her before.
Okay.
I've been flashing on and off the
We can hear you,
screen.
Rhonda.
I hope you can hear me
We
now.
got you.
Now, yeah.
5 attempts trying.
Well, Rhonda, I got us through the minutes. So
The
we have a
minutes.
quorum. We've got it through the minutes. I'll turn it over to you. Local and national updates.
And those are current minutes, you guys.
That's
Yeah,
you, national
those
and
are
local updates.
those are
You
June.
should
Those
forgive
are
me. I should have
June.
commended Adrian for her outstanding work on the minutes. They were unanimously approved.
Yeah.
And you're the local and national updates.
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously lots going on in DC with the federal government at the moment. In our area with Medicaid, we we're waiting, obviously the big bill passed. There's a lot of skepticism and concern in the disability community about what that will mean for Medicaid and disability. The administration takes the position that it shouldn't impact people with disabilities, but I think a lot of disability advocates believe it will because it'll cut funding to states. So, one thing we want to do is we do want to have, Catherine, we do want to have the representatives come back from DDS and from healthcare finance and whoever else to tell us whether there'll be any impacts to Medicaid for people with disabilities based on what happened in the bill. Do you have anything Catherine, you have any insights on that at the moment? Has there been any reporting?
So on the local level, we know that we are looking at a budget cut for DDA for waiver, that the increases the mayor put in were not included in the council's version of the budget. So we are looking at having to absorb $1.6 million for DDS for folks on the Medicaid waiver that's specific to that program. So we're looking at ways that we can do that. And Crystal, feel free to pop in if you want to add anything to that. So that's an impact that is related to our local budget.
What is the percentage of the budget that is?
Oh, I'll have to double check that. But yeah, I'm not sure right off the top of my head.
Well, as a constituency board, it would be helpful for us to have someone come and talk to us about what the impacts would be. Do we expect to see any, like, will it take longer to get things approved? Will it mean some things that we currently have approved won't get approved? Does it mean there'll be a waiting list? I mean, what is it? It'd be good to know what it means.
Yeah.
Okay, super.
We
Thank
can
you.
hear you.
Oh, Crystal, we can't hear you.
Sorry about that, guys. TDS is having work groups that start next month to have these discussions, Craig. We would love to meet with stakeholders so that we can discuss ways to offset that amount. So, but everything you said is a possibility. right? Everything you shared is a possibility. So we put out an announcement for families, self-advocates, providers, other community members to be a part of the DDA work group to discuss the budget.
Okay. Shani?
Hi, I'm a bit confused. So it seems like with the bill passing, it's supposed to be implemented and effective come October 1. However, families within DDS are already experiencing cuts, and providers are literally telling families, oh, it's because the budget is being cut. It's because of the Medicaid cut. So I'm really confused here. And I mean significant cuts.
So Shani, I'm not familiar with that, but the current budget cut does not, with DDS waiver, does not impact current recipients. So we've
All right, for
already,
clarity.
right, so we've already included people currently receiving services.
Okay, so for clarity,
Chioma?
if you don't mind, for clarity, so if a provider contacts a family, this is within DDS, this is with the home and community-based services waiver, okay? If a provider contacts a family and literally there's no option, so it's not like this is an actual communication. The decision is already made. The provider contacts the family and says, hey, hours will be cut. And we're talking anywhere from 10, 15 hours of one service to sometimes an entire service, which could be 30 to 56 hours per week. And the explanation that they're giving families is because of Medicaid cuts. And then we hit a roadblock when we speak to providers, and I'm also an advocate as well as a caregiver, when we speak to providers and say, hey, you know, can you explain? Can you offer clarity? What is going on? And we just get a blatant answer of Medicaid cuts. And even when we file complaints, because to me, just to simply say Medicaid cuts, that's not sufficient enough as a reason to terminate services. And when I say terminate, they will contact the family today and tell them it would be effective tomorrow.
So you're saying terminate or reduce hours? I've heard two things.
Both. It's both. I've had families that have had an entire service completely terminated. And then I've had families where services have been significantly reduced. And there's no leeway. There's no recourse. You don't get answers. Even when you file a complaint, it's literally nothing. And the decision is already made by the time a provider contacts a family.
Are you comfortable with sharing the provider?
If you give me, because what I want to do before I provide information, I would like to get the permission from a few families.
Okay.
I'll just get verbal permission and then I can follow back up with you guys. But I also want to make this very, very clear that when we reveal these families and the providers, I would like an eye as far as oversight on these families because of retaliation. That's the biggest fear with these families. Even when I am at a point where I can encourage them to file a complaint, retaliation is huge within DDS. So if we can commit to someone, whomever I release the information to, we can commit to following up with that family for at least 3 to 6 months to ensure that retaliation or retaliatory methods have not been against this family, I don't have any problem with releasing the information once I get the permission from the families.
Okay, and that's not a problem. If you do, or if you are aware, I put my email in the chat.
Okay.
If you are aware, and I'll put my number as well, of any instances where there has been some sort of punishment, retaliatory acts, we'd love to hear that as well.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And we'll take one more comment on this, and then we're going to have another at the next from Chioma. And then next week, or I mean, pardon me, next month, it would be good maybe to have like an hour on this topic, I think, because I think it's probably the most pressing topic. So we could have some speakers come, and I see our vice chair also. And of course, Rhonda, if you have any final comments. So Chioma, and then Adrian, and then Rhonda, and then we'll close out this part of it.
Me too.
Really quickly, thank you, Crystal, for sharing your information in the chat. Are you with DHCF? And if so, what's your role in the agency?
I am with DDS, and I am the program manager of policy planning and innovation.
Got it. Okay, thank you. Just to save it in. And we did invite, I'm with Advocates for Justice and Education, right? Also mom first. And I'm very interested in this issue. First time hearing of this, Shani. So I would love to know more about it. What we're thinking, so my role is the Health Justice Project, and we go up to 26, so we can definitely engage this issue. And I just want to know more about how we can support with potentially with the council and maybe DDS, or just even with you, Shani, as a parent. What we're thinking currently is to implement, like having like a form, maybe a Google form, where it's just your name and place open comment. You can upload documents, videos, pictures, and let's just get, want to start doing some narrative storytelling around these things. But this is a very particular issue, and it feels like this is something actionable we can track and watch. As far as I know, similarly, and I posted in the chat before I had some tech issues and had to come back in. That we had a health policy camp in July with Melissa Bird. Well, we had a health policy camp, period. One of the sessions was with Melissa Bird. There's a chunk of it about Alliance, but there's also a big chunk of it just about the One Big Beautiful Bill, and specifically the impact on DC Medicaid. My takeaway is we don't know, and just reiterating what we learned there was that we won't likely see the impact until about 5-10 years. But like we must be preparing for whatever that may look like. But we know that we will be impacted. We were able to save the FQHC percentage or whatever, where it's like we still get the rebate is still at what is the rebate? Is it 7-10%? Well, for 70%, 10%, 70% rebate, not 7%. So DC can still kind of maintain its quality of services for now. We don't know if that's going to change, and then that's going to directly impact if they break it down to 50% or something lower, and the district has to contribute more. That will be the reason why we will likely see an impact. But we're still mulling through the data. We will write a report about the camp, and we will share that with every family, but specifically the lowest level is 50%. So we're at 70% though, right?
Yeah,
DC is 70.
70,
Right.
correct.
Yeah, currently. So it may even, don't give me anxiety, please, Catherine. Currently they may drop it lower than 50%. We don't know. But ultimately this issue about providers retaliating, I see that as an action that locally we can monitor and track. And as part of our bucket and health justice work, we would love to support either as a body or just as an individual parent or both. So, yeah.
Thank you,
Okay,
Chioma.
great.
Adrian?
So I just have a really quick question. Thank you, Crystal, for sharing that information as well. I just wanted to ask, like in the DDS policies and procedures, is it, and it seems like it's stated, or it is stated, that if a family is submitting a complaint or is pursuing an appeal for some of the things that are impacting the family member, and I'm a parent, I'm a mom, um, is it correct or incorrect that the policy states that, for DDS, states that if that individual is pursuing or has a complaint filed or an appeal, that their services, all of their services as they were, are supposed to remain intact until such time as a decision is made. And you can correct me if that's right or wrong. I'm
That is my
asking.
understanding, correct?
So that those policies should stay in place. And if the policies have been removed prior to a complaint or after or in between a complaint and an appeal, what would a family member or families then do to get those services reinstated until such time as some decision has been made?
You said if the policy is removed, what do you mean by removed?
So if not the policy, if the services
Mhm,
are removed
mhm,
or cut off or suspended,
mhm.
that goes against, it would seem that that goes against the policy, DDS's policy / procedure. So what would a family or families do to get that reinstated until such time as a larger decision is made?
So what I'm hearing is if the decision is to you're saying the decision to terminate services, so they're
No,
currently.
no, what I'm saying is, for example,
Mhm,
if a person if a family member has filed a complaint in behalf of their child or their
mhm,
loved one, um, or has even filed an appeal,
mhm.
it says in policy and procedure, from my understanding, that those services that they have been receiving are intact until such time. And in the event, let's say that those services have been terminated prior to anything having been decided from DDS under I guess it's the appeal, the in-house appeal or the complaint. How would a family then, or what would a family need to do to get those services put back into place until something else has happened?
I have a clarifying question too. Adrian, is the complaint related to like the denial or reduction in a service, or is it a
Right.
complaint related to something
Thank you.
else? Okay,
Thank you.
thanks. Yeah.
That's what, so I should have said that as well. So what we're talking about are, and Shawnee was saying, she used the terminology when services have been terminated and or reduced significantly. Um, and it looks like, and I could be wrong, so that's why I'm asking the question. Is it the policy and procedure? So I'm gonna let Crystal do the talking now. Crystal, did that help for what Catherine just added? Was that helpful?
It is, and from what I'm hearing is, um, the person is currently receiving services, and so the complaint is if there is a decision to reduce the amount of hours or supports. Um, what would happen if you file a complaint, correct?
Right, or file a
Would,
complaint, or I understand that there's an appeal process as
right.
well. So this would be if that if services have been interrupted
Mhm,
before any decisions were made, that would go against policy. This is just
correct.
standard. That goes against policy. So if that person, in fact, has lost, let's say, a portion of their support services that they had been receiving and or was literally terminated, which was a bit unsettling when I heard Shawnee share that information. Um, what does one do? What does a family member or that individual, what does that person then do to reinstate those services until such time as a decision is then made?
For clarity, it's learning why are services terminated. Usually, I haven't heard of that being a common practice. There are times where people are unable for whatever reason to renew the Medicaid and or if there's some sort of admin challenges with Medicaid. But whenever services are reduced or changed, there should be a meeting and a discussion with the team about that. So the family should have an understanding of why there is a change, right? Is the person refusing supports? Is the person, I mean, there's so many different reasons, but that conversation should happen before there's any change.
I want to add one more thing to that, that
Thank
some of the
you.
service changes when people were looking at when service coordination was looking at the level of need and the people's goals, that all of that, and this may get at Shawnee's question too, is supposed to be related to what does the person need and what are their goals, and the services need to link directly to that. And so I think DDA did a bit of cleanup on that and was really looking at some of those things that may either not have fit, or people may have been getting a lot of support for things that weren't actually part of their goals, that there may have been some situations like that. It's totally individual to each person and their situation. But I think some people saw some changes when there was a closer look at that alignment over the past year. But it shouldn't, as far as budget cuts go, your services should still be based on your needs and your goals. And that piece hasn't changed. It's just the stuff like Crystal said earlier about, are we talking wait lists or rate reductions, the different strategies to reduce cost overall that Andy is collecting the work group to consider. And those are things that are not implemented yet.
Thank you.
Okay.
So thank you, Catherine. So we will come back. Can we put this on the agenda for next?
Yeah, I want to interject if you
Rhonda?
don't mind, Craig. My apologies today. Tried to get in 5, 6 times. I think you guys see me waving and everything else, trying to get in. So I wasn't in the meeting space to start the meeting, but to continue this conversation. This is not unknown. What Shawnee expressed is not unknown. That was the reason why the executive committee put DDS as an agenda item today. Because yes, I may even have same families as Shawnee that are expressing what they're going through. And there there's not a meeting. It's just, here it is, it's cut off, or it's reduced to the point of what the policy should be. So to drill back to Family Support Council, and when DDS did come, we invited them, invited you all, say Crystal's here, and Catherine, we invited DDS, you all to present in our meeting. We had Mark, when Mark Augusta was still here. Sorry, sad about that. But he gave a presentation about all the different requests we had about how the process of applying and many other things that we expressed. And so he had did a presentation. Then we had thereafter, we had a Q&A, and I believe that was Andy and Winslow that was a part of that meeting. So with those 2 meetings and the things that we are seeing families experience, to the unfortunate degree of where we are to now, that's saying that services are cut and there's not a clear transition, understanding, reasoning for why that's happening. And yes, I have heard that the service coordinator said this is happening because of the budget cuts. But to your point, Crystal, you're saying that nothing should have been affected yet. But that is what
Correct.
we're hearing, is that, oh, your services are being cut because the budget. What? And even if that was the piece that is not being followed through, is the part you said, Crystal, the policy of there should be a meeting. It shouldn't be that the person with the disability and their family member come to a meeting and find out it's cut. I mean, that shouldn't happen that way. And that's what we're hearing. And with that process, and it's not handled with the most professional manner to make that happen or to have a discussion. And that's what makes it even more challenging, because then there is friction with concern, not for the parent, but for some reason the service coordinator and maybe their supervisor. All of these dynamics are, they're not being treated with respect as they're going through whatever these processes are, which I think Catherine is kind of alluding to, is that it may be this matching of the need with the goal and all of that, but that's not being explained. And it's just saying it's gone. And you better accept it, figure it out. Maybe you need to do something different. And because of my role and many of us that are on this council, that we are advocates and we see families from different perspectives. Sometimes we share in the families that we see and try to support, right? And so we are their voice, right? And so they're coming with all of the angst of not only our current situation in our community as a District of Columbia resident, you know what I'm saying? That we have the fears and all of those things that are going on. And it doesn't necessarily mean, and I'm going to give this example, and it's not an example, this happened. It's not just those family members that are potentially that those ICE are looking for. I had someone in Ward 8 who was mistaken to be from the Latinx community, African-American woman, and went through not a good experience. So my point in saying that is that and she's not even a person with a disability or family member with a disability. So I'm just sharing that from the aspect of fear, right? It's for all of us. If you're understanding what living in the district is at this time. So again, if you're then threatened or feeling threatened, and some were using threatening words, you know what I'm saying, that services are going to be removed or are removed because of what was the answer? Why is this happening? How do we make a smooth transition? Whatever it is, but it's not happening. So again, that's why today's subject was about discussing what are some recommendations to DDS as we look at these types of issues. Also, even if someone goes and says, okay, I've experienced this situation. One of the things I shared with Catherine was that we do need to get an understanding what is the grievance and complaint process. I know a while back, and I think you'll remember this, Crystal. I don't know if you remember Leanne. She was here before.
Yep.
She did this whole elaborate grievance.
Correct.
And I was like, what happened to that? And you know what I'm saying? So I'm just trying to understand too. And I know you can go online and there you can click there, but there was this elaborate, I remember Family Support Council actually like reviewed it and everything. So I was like, so what happened to that process? Or maybe it was just taken away. I don't know. But my thing is, if we are telling parents to go appeal, file a complaint, what is that looking like? And an example that I know for sure is that parent has filed a complaint, and because the complaint was addressed, it's still not being documented as a complaint. And it still should be. It should be in a complaint that was resolved, but it should still look like on DDS's report card, if you want to call it, you know what I'm saying? There was a complaint, but you resolved it, not to take the whole complaint away. And then it's saying, oh, we had no complaints. We've been doing everything perfectly. And those are kinds of things that here at the Family Support Council, we really would like the help of DDS to help us to support these families, get the systems and processes working in a way that is understandable, that the information is accessible, that it's understood of how the systems work. So yeah, we can continue the conversation because that was the whole reason why this was put on here, Shawnee, and that was the reason why today's particular agenda items were concerning DDS, because we do want to be prepared, Crystal and Catherine, you know what I'm saying, that what we bring to you all, you know what I'm saying, that you understand what those issues are, and hopefully getting more families that are not fearful, to Shawnee's point, that don't want to come maybe to the Family Support Council because of many different types of fears and the things they actually have experienced. It's just not, you can be fearful of something and haven't even taken any steps. But these are people that have taken steps, you know what I'm saying? And are continuing to be fearful that if I take another step, what does that happen? If I call this person, they tell me to call, and this person, treats them disrespectfully on the phone call, what do you do? Because you've already went up the food chain. So you're feeling stuck. And so we do really need to figure out what the process is, what we need to be sharing with the families. I'm going to take this moment since I didn't get to talk, because I can talk. The other part of it is that this transition process, which is another concern with DDS. We know that the school system, making the schools, students and families aware that there is a DDS and an RSA being invited to the meeting. That's still a problem. We talked about this before. Can there be a flyer? I think Shawnee probably remembers this. We had talked about DDS. Can we have a flyer or something that the transition coordinator gives out to families? Something, because you don't know what you don't know. If you don't know RSA exists, how can you ask for them to come to the meeting? So we really have some work to do, right? Because it's transitioning and also maintaining the services you have at DDS and what that entails. So I know I said a whole lot, but I think we all can agree, from those who have or maybe experienced it or are working with families, that the transition process is still not working well to allow the smooth transition, along with, and we can't forget, it's not just coming educational piece, but we also have the healthcare piece. So we also have the HSCSN transition. I mean, all of that happening. And then the ping pong that some families go through of where DDS says, no, we're not paying for HSCSN. I mean, you get this ping pong going on that families are experiencing as well. So there is some work, and we're hoping that DDS is willing to help us to help the community at large have access to the services and maintain the services that meet the needs of the person with the disability to live in the district. And we know right now, living in the district is challenging right now from other perspectives as well. And so we want to try to make this a place, being the Family Support Council, a place in where parents don't fearful that they can come themselves and speak about what is going on. That was the whole reason for the Family Support Council. It was supposed to be a platform just for that. So I see Craig and then Shawnee.
Well,
And then
Rhonda, I
can I
just
say
wanted
something,
to.
Craig? Craig, can I say something? I did say a lot. Thank you, Chioma. Crystal, did you have something to say? Because I said a whole lot there.
I just find it so disturbing just hearing that people have experienced some sort of retaliation, and there's a fear of engaging and speaking out. I left the deputy director as well as the program manager of DDA. You can reach out to me or I report to Andy Reese about any form of retaliation, any ideas that you have to bridge that gap, to start building trust. I would love to hear about the ideas, and we are on board to continue to work together. So definitely disturbed to hear that, Rhonda.
Thank you for comments. And we
Rhonda, I was
appreciate
just gonna suggest, first I wanted to note for Adrian that Daisy has joined, so she's here too. So put that for
Hi,
them.
everybody.
Hi, Daisy.
Hi,
And
Daisy.
and I know that Shawnee wants to speak again. But before anyone else does, I just wanted to, I felt like this is a longer conversation that maybe is number 6 under DDS recommendation. So I was wondering if we could table the discussion actually for about 5 minutes so we can go through the other items in the agenda, get those off the plate, and then we could resume this conversation. And I had some with Shawnee being the next speaker once we get back to that discussion, if it'd be okay, because I just want to make sure we get through everything.
Craig, one moment.
Yes.
My colleague Jose Castrillo is on the call as well. He joined.
Jose.
So he's from Quality and he can speak to any in-depth questions regarding a complaint
Super.
system. But yeah.
So can you both stay on for about 10 more minutes? And then the rest of the time we'll talk about, I guess, the complaint system. And in fact, we may want to, maybe that should be something that we review this year. Look at the statistics related to it. What percent, how often are complaints filed? How quickly are they processed? How often are they sustained? That would be interesting. I've been doing that with the DC Advisory Committee, U.S. Commission on Civil Rights, with the school district, because they have very high rate of complaints and too high, frankly. And we made a number of findings that they needed to fix their complaint system. So, this could be a good thing to discuss. But let me just, if it's okay with everyone, there was one other national update. The Department of Labor is for federal contractors. You're required to do affirmative action for people with disabilities. They're talking about eliminating some of those requirements. I put the link. So take a look at that. I'm working with 4 disability organizations to contest that, and we're going to be making comments about why they should be continuing affirmative action for people with disabilities, including self-identification and setting a goal, not just outreach and recruitment, which is all that they want to do now. They want to eliminate the 7% goal and the self-ID. So they would really limit affirmative action. So take a look at that. And then briefly, the subcommittee updates. I just wanted to give you an update with the police subcommittee. We will be having a speaker, Carl, from the MPD, come probably at the next meeting. It also might be a good opportunity to find out a little bit more what's happening with MPD and how that relates to people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, because of the federal, it being federalized to some extent. So it's a good, but of course we don't want to put Carl on the spot either. We'd like him to come. So the point is, we'll be talking to him next month, about what they're doing for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities in the police department. He's the one who does the training. He oversees the training, and he's told us that he's going to involve us in the training this year. So, and we want to make sure that that doesn't get lost in everything else that's going on. So we're going to talk to him next month.
Okay.
And then, of course, with our Medicaid subcommittee, I'll turn over to Rhonda. But
Okay,
that's what we're doing right now. Here, Rhonda.
All right, thank you. Yes, apologies for skipping over that, the subcommittee. But yes, with Medicaid, to your point, I did attend Chioma's or AJE's Health Justice Camp, and did see Melissa Bird, which she acknowledged me and as a family support council. And I said, of course, we wanted her to return, you know what I'm saying, to the Family Support Council, but we wanted to make sure that we invite her in a time that she does have something to share, right? So definitely after, the end of the fiscal year, and making sure we get the right timing to have her return. We definitely want her, as well as Health Services for Children with Special Needs, which would be Anna Dunn, and making sure those individuals, and we might want to even consider, oh Lord, the Umbumson coming, the health, and maybe inviting them as well to see where they are, because even as we're talking about DDS, that's another place, right, where families are supposed to go, you know what I'm saying, to get that type of support, filing a complaint or getting further assistance to get things resolved concerning their health and Medicaid. One of the other things that was shared with me, and I was in a parent group meeting, that a mother was told that the reason why people are losing Medicaid, or it's taking a long time for their Medicaid applications to be processed, is that Medicaid is saying that the applications are incomplete. They don't have the documentation they need, or something's missing on it, whatever that is. And that may be the case, but it goes back to the point, they say that there's people that are supposed to support people to fill out the applications. That's what I've been told. So from the Family Support Council, Medicaid being, what was the gentleman we had come to speak from Medicaid
Eugene,
training, that we need to,
Eugene Sims.
thank you, Eugene Simpson, that we need him to also express what needs to, where do they go if they're having problems completing their application, or there's errors to the application. How would I know that instead of just receiving something in the mail and saying you're denied, and you're not really telling me while I'm denied? If it is that I missed something, I didn't fill out the application right, whatever that is. So from the Medicaid perspective, we are subcommittee, we are thinking through of inviting them after this fiscal year ends, which is September 30th, when there hopefully are some more, hopefully, I won't say definite changes, but changes that'll happen that we need to be aware of. And that's the key point, is that making sure that we're aware, families are aware, and communities aware of what these changes are that are happening so quickly and fast. That was it from the Medicaid subcommittee.
Super. So thank you, Rhonda. So with that, we're gonna, oh, one other thing, meeting schedule. What did you want us to talk about with meeting schedule, Rhonda?
Yes, I thought that was at the bottom, but we better talk
It
about
is,
it
but I
now.
think that this other
No,
discussion
I
can
agree.
go for
We
40
need to talk
minutes.
about it now because it's 10
Yeah.
minutes too. So there's some challenges for some with the 1 o'clock on Thursdays, or really just having it in the day. And not only for our council members, but I think we all maybe recall that we discussed about changing the timing so that we are more accessible to families, right? That maybe we do an evening and then maybe an afternoon. So one of the things that I was proposing was maybe we do 1 month, it is an afternoon one. And then the next month it's in the evening. So I don't know if Catherine had an opportunity to put that together, but we were looking at Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, right? Of which day that would
Check the
work.
chat.
Okay, which day that would work. Thank you. Oh, okay, she put a Survey Monkey
Yeah.
together.
I'll show you I can pull up the matrix if you want to just see that as you're talking
If
through
you
it.
would. So I'm gonna give the microphone to Catherine then, if she's going to pull that up. When you're ready, just let me know. But Monday, Wednesdays, and Friday, thinking about that day. And then if we wanted to still keep the fourth, no, I forgot about this piece, but the fourth week of the month, if we still wanted to keep that, considering Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So let's say we do, as you can see on here, we put 10:30 to noon, noon to 1:30, 1:30 to 3, 3 to 4:30, 6 to 7:30, or 7 to 8:30. Okay. So it's either we keep it evenings or we fluctuate, you know what I'm saying? Every other month. For that part, I would like to ask a question of maybe people raising hands about if going, fluctuating every other month, afternoon and evening, is something people are interested in. Can we just get that figured out? And then you all can complete the survey to tell us which one of these groupings works for you or not. So with a thumbs up, is everyone, and Daisy, if you could unmute yourself to let me know, because I know it might be challenging for you to get to
Okay.
to use the
Okay. Yes, I'm not technology driven. Okay.
reaction buttons. But is everyone okay with every other month switching the meetings morning to evening every other month? If not, then put a thumbs down. So I think who we have here is Craig Adrian. Craig is saying yes.
Rhonda,
Saying yes.
I apologize because I'm having these issues with
Okay, so you
this
can
is
move it on.
for the this would be for the evening activity, I mean, the evening meeting.
Yeah, this meeting, we
Mhm.
potentially could have a 10:30 to 12. I'm just giving her an example and everybody an
Right.
example. Next month being September, then October have a 7 to 8:30 meeting and go every other month, a morning or afternoon meeting, and the other month, a evening meeting. Does that make sense?
It does.
Adrian? Okay,
Okay.
so we do
Mhm.
have Craig, Shawnee, in agreement. I'm in agreement. Adrian, did you?
Thursdays, Yanina is in a choir, and
Okay,
it's not it's on site.
well, we
So
don't even have
and
Thursdays on here. It's Monday.
okay.
When
Oh,
you do this,
Monday.
yeah, when you do the Survey Monkey, can you see the screen?
Yep, I can.
Okay,
I
it's
can.
only Monday, well, we suggested Monday,
Monday.
Wednesdays, and Fridays. Now, keep in mind, I mean, I don't think we want to do, I mean, I'll just say this. You see that the grid says Friday, 7 to 8:30, or 6 to 7:30, or 3 to 4:30. I am not a fan of having on Friday a late meeting. That's just me. It may be others, but we put it there just in case if
Monday.
it's for
Oh boy.
people, they can select it and we see what works, because obviously we want to be available and accessible to everyone to be able to participate. But keep in mind, you know, if you're looking like Friday, 6 o'clock, or Friday, 3 or 7 in the evening, not sure of that. But this is
So
why she put the
mhm.
Survey Monkey together, so you can identify and please complete so we can make the decision. We do have some of our council members who work in the day that do not work with families. Well, they work with families, but they don't work with families as their profession, like some of us, right? So they have a day job. So being able to come to these, even if it's noon and 1, it's been a little challenging. So I thought, well, maybe we can do it this way to make it more available. And then we have students that have class as well, that can't make the noon, 1 o'clock. So wanted to make sure we open it up. And again, one of our major goals was also not only for us to participate as council members, but making it more available and open to the whole community. All right, so it looks like we've settled that.
Monday and Monday
We
in the morning or in
I
the
have a
afternoon
question.
or in the evening.
Okay, so she put in the chat the link to the Survey Monkey, Adrian, so you can complete that. Do you see the link in the chat? And you can note there what days and times work for you. This is for when you're available, when you fill this out. Okay? Did you see that, Adrian?
And I am so sorry. This is connectivity, and so I'm freezing, and I do apologize about that. And hopefully by the 8th of September, this will all be resolved.
Okay.
But I was saying a Monday was good, and I sent up a thumbs up for Mondays would be okay with us. Mhm.
We do have something that's even better, is being that Catherine put together a Survey Monkey where you can go and click on which days, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and the times. So I will send that via email as well, but it's in the chat.
Mhm.
And if you can complete that, everyone, and also we'll make sure that the other members of the council get connection to this. Someone was trying to speak. I don't know.
Juma.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
Shoma, just real quick. I do so I mean, I guess we took the vote right here, but I do support it that have like evening meetings. The question about the alternate, it's so challenging for me to keep up with meetings. The alternate
I agree.
schedule could
Me too.
throw me off. I don't know about others. So I'm wondering if we could just keep it at a static, whether morning or even evening, on another day. I'm open to that. And then maybe another way to think about having more times for engagement is to activate the subcommittees and have those subcommittee meetings be at alternate times. If the main meeting is going to be in the evening, then let's try to have the subcommittee
Gotcha.
meeting in the morning, but to like have the same meeting, even these calendar invites are so confusing for me because I have like invites from years ago that I can't get rid of. I don't know why my email has like invites from years ago from DDS. So, I'm very worried about like me not being able to do it when I should actually show up if we have these multiple kind of things going on.
No, I tend to agree with you on that point, because there's a lot of different meetings that we all are involved, or appointments and everything in our lives, right? Maybe knowing, oh, that's right, Family Support Council's always this time, kind of like what we were doing here, right? I guess the thing is, if it is, then we make the main meeting and we do that, then we would have to make it at 5 or 6 or whatever it comes out to. I'm just giving you guys a clear perspective, because I'm aware of some of the other council members who are having difficulty with their schedule. You know what I'm saying? That it would have to be after 4 or 5, right? And if that's okay with everyone, but we'll just see how it all comes out when everybody completes the Survey Monkey, and we'll go from there. Okay. But thank you, Chioma, for your input on that.
One more Survey Monkey note when people are completing that. I think a lot of us have their standing meetings, and then there's a lot of, if I know in advance, there's not any definite conflict, but I need to know in advance. So answer it like the things that if you know in advance, you would be available. If you have a lot of advance warning, if that helps when you're looking at that Survey Monkey. If you know you don't have a conflict now, but your schedule varies week to week, that sort of thing. Does that make some sense?
Okay. Thank you, Catherine. Any other questions or anything? Okay. Well, with that being said, then, did you have anything, Craig? Otherwise, we'll.
No, I just thought we should go to the
No, I agree.
the DDS now, and for the
Yes.
rest of the time.
Gotcha. Shawnee, is that where you were as wanting to continue the discussion on DDS?
Yes, that's where I was.
Okay. You
All right.
you got the microphone.
Okay. So I want to see if the Family Support Council would be willing to come up with, I guess we can call it a safety plan, since the National Guard is here. I think that it would be wise for us to create something that we can distribute to families. For instance, if an individual with a disability is apprehended by police, and or if, our immigrant families, if a parent is kidnapped, what would be the options? Maybe even having them collaborate with another family to pick up where, the person who was kidnapped would normally provide services, things of that nature. So I just want to get feedback on that, because I have my own ideas, but talking to other families, they don't have anything in place.
It's kind of
And
like.
I really, go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, I really think, if when Congress comes back, if they do allow for extension, this will be ongoing.
Yes, it would. It would. And you're right. There needs to be a plan. It kind of reminds me of another topic I've been having with another parent group is, future planning, right? What's your emergency plan? What's your future plan? All of that. That's really what that is, in that same, umbrella in a sense, but it is living today, you're right. In this situation of what's our plan? And that's not even just, if you think about it, we need to let parents think about it even from their bigger family, right? What does that look like, right? If you do lose your home, no, this is real. You know what I'm saying? Do you know if a family you're going to be able to go to Maryland or Midwest or wherever that is, you know what I'm saying? That you're going to need to join with another family, or is it that we're taking families with people with disabilities and we're saying, hey, family, you know what I'm saying? Why don't we come together and do this? I said it jokingly, probably one of the meetings, and said, you know what? I might need an egg or a slice of bread. You know what I'm saying? But I
Right,
being
right,
very serious about it, you know what I'm saying? To say,
right,
we're gonna have to
right,
come together and help families to see that we can be our own community of support, right?
right,
To each
right,
other and establishing that.
right,
Mhm.
right.
Yeah, you're right. So,
Um,
but to your point, we do need to establish what that is because when you say that, I don't know what that is, right? You know, someone can say,
yeah,
what do we do? Do we go to the police? I mean, you know, or is it a
yeah,
certain ICE, department or
yeah.
number? I don't, does anybody know? Seriously, as you say that,
Yeah,
like, where do you
I'm
start?
not even, realistically, I'm not even sure, if the process that has been outlined works. It doesn't seem like it. So I'm more concerned about the family that's left behind. So I'll just use this as an example. Let's say that there's an immigrant family who is receiving DDS services, whether it's companion, whether it's IDS or in-home support. And let's say that one of the family members are apprehended by ICE. Just so happen that family member is the one who renders the service. We know this individual still needs this service, and we know that consistency and keeping a schedule is of the utmost, importance. So, what do we do in an instance of that, right? Who can come in, right? Who knows the provider, right? Things of that nature. So, on that side, we can keep some form of consistency,
Well,
right?
right. Well, to my point of what I was talking about future planning, I'm working with my
Mm-hmm.
family ties of DC, and I'm telling them, okay, you know, I know we may not know what you're doing with life insurance or finances or any of that if you were to transition or even get sick. You have to remember that,
Mm-hmm.
families. It could be that you get sick and you can't. But I think one of the most mandatory required documents that needs to be done is obviously a will, but even to the point of if you can't get to that type of situation is a letter of intent that
Yeah,
shows how you support your
yeah,
loved one with a disability to
yeah,
include what you just said, right? How if
right,
that happens, there should be a letter of intent, right? That says this
right,
is how you care for my child. Here's his service coordinator. Here's her
right,
therapist. This is how she brushes her teeth. You know, this
yeah,
is the kind of stuff we were talking. Those little things that
yeah.
a person with a disability could make it a little better of a transition if they
Mhm,
knew how their daily life went about, right?
mhm.
So,
Yeah,
to your point, why people are like, well, why has she got that's why, you know what I'm saying? Because if we pass away, if we're sick, or in this third situation, the supporter, the caregiver's gone because
yeah.
they have to go back to their, native country, you know what I'm saying, or whatever the situation, or they're not even their native country, they're in
No, not their native country.
France.
That's not
They're
how
being
he's doing it.
detained.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They're
Yep.
being detained,
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, I'm so glad you brought it up, but you see where I'm going, right? And
Yeah.
the arc of where I had started with, just to get people to start thinking about it and have something that they could look at. It's not got everything you need, but the arc of the the national arc, has a future planning uh system, process, program. You know what I'm saying? And in there is a letter of intent, and it's a fillable thing. Now, again, like I said, it is a good, template. You know what I'm saying? Something you can use to kind of jot those types of things down, or use that information and put it in something else. But it just helps a parent to start thinking, right? Thinking that way. You know what I'm saying? About where is all this information, and you can actually save it within there if you want to. That's if you want to, within the thank you, Catherine. So I have been
Could I
working
say
with them.
something?
Yeah, I'm sorry, just a moment, Daisy. I hope to be doing a bigger training to the community at large, and I do believe DD Council and Quality Trust was working on future navigators, what they call future planning navigators, which they were doing some training and wanting to offer it out to parents to come and ask questions. And one of the things I've said to them is that we have to parents don't know what to ask, you know what I'm saying? So they would have to get the information, have some forthcoming training or information sessions before we just open it up and say, oh, come to this table and ask us any question. Because if I don't know what that entails, I don't know what questions to ask, right? So working through that. Daisy, yes.
Yes. To Shawnee's point, spot on. This is just a suggestion. We've had MPD at our meetings in the past. If we reach out to them to say, right now, with the National Guard on our soil, what is your protocol with regard to working with them? Or do you know where they take people that they detain? Is there some kind of record? Well, we need to ask MPD to tell us what their process is first. They've been to our table before. So to me, that's where to start. And at least with that, we get their information so parents can, and I'm not saying all parents will know, but at least we can share within our own communities. Okay, if you happen to have a loved one that is detained or stopped to be asked a question, we kind of know what they're going to do and to share that information with our loved ones first and then our broader communities. So let's go to MPD first. They've already been to Family Support Council, so.
I think you have a point there, Daisy. And before I ask Craig that, I wanted to say to Chioma, if you do decide with AJE to do something around this letter of intent, please let me know, because I definitely would like to collaborate on providing those trainings and what that looks like. If you're doing something within that concerning, how do we help them to gather this information? Because it's for all of us to do, everybody to do, but in this situation we have going on, how we can help those that are in greatest need right now. So just FYI, I just wanted to put that out there, Chioma.
Yeah, I mean, we were specifically just before coming into this meeting talking about safety planning, particularly for undocumented, but it makes sense in general. I mean, this conversation has enlightened my understanding of what kind of safety planning we need to be doing right now, which includes around housing displacement, around just a bunch of other things that we can come up with a process. And I to your point about collaborating, my main point was that I don't think we should do this in a vacuum, because there's so many people activating in DC, to the degree in which this body, because of how we are connected to DDS, can collaborate with Free DC campaign. There's mutual aids that are just popping up, like first week of school, like people are really active on Signal, showing up at schools to welcome the kids, to watch, make sure nobody's getting kidnapped, make sure that no one's getting violated, right? Making sure that everyone kind of do youth training, right? Know their rights, because we know the targets are the unhoused population and the youth primarily. And that doesn't mean that our kids may not be, or our young people may not be either mistaken or not be able to, project or defend themselves to say which category they may fall in or not, or neither. We're just in a very precarious situation, which we know, and we know why MPD was here. My thing about the MPD, I want to say maybe this body, what we can do is the one pagers. I know before the family-centered training, I don't know if DDS still does that. This is a great moment to do one pagers as part of, safety planning is great because it's big and it's grand, but I think we can also do like culturally inclusive things in small increments, like one pagers. Like, do you know
over there in the burgundy
one pager,
what's
right?
her name? Doreen.
And the last thing I want to say,
All right, lock the door. Okay. Call me later.
Shawnee,
Okay.
yeah, she does.
Can you mute
It's cool.
yourself?
Oh, wait. The last thing that I'm gonna say about, kind of what responding to Daisy's point about deferring to MPD. I mean, we should totally leverage every asset that we have, but I don't think MPD has that intel. Like, if we're understanding what's happening right now, like we're under siege and they're not obligated to communicate with us, but they can extract information from our MPD or just from our state. We are literally under federal, our home rule has been compromised. So we don't have that kind of autonomy. I want us to really get that, and maybe MPD can come and break down to us what what's in their bucket. So we all know. I think even the activists who are responding and reacting out in the community may not know the details of MPD's limitations in this moment. That is information that I think everybody should be aware of, that while it may seem like our mayor is capitulating to whatever, we don't know the back end pressures. We don't know the ultimate kind of power plays that are being played against DC in this moment. But what we do know is that our entire autonomous democratic features are compromised, and we don't know the extent to which. So Daisy, your point is more, I feel like it's more inquiry than it is anything else, because I don't think MPD will be able to flag. They don't know. The mayor didn't know this was going to happen. She don't know what they're going to do next. So if she doesn't know, MPD
Then we
cannot
won't
know. So,
How she gonna be able to tell it right?
Point.
Because things are changing for them all the time too. But I do think logistically, in the sense of, maybe not the best word, but to understand, right? Just to give us the understanding, which we know that it could change, in 5 minutes, right? But I do think if we're having them come, which we were having the gentleman come about training, Carl, so I don't know if he knows anything or if he could supply any information to assist us with creating something, because I think we have to do it. I mean, it's something that, you know what I'm saying, but it would be helpful to know information from them that we can use to help to put some safety plan together. But thank you, Shani and Daisy and all those who have commented, and Gioma. Craig,
just,
what do you think? What's your
yeah.
thoughts?
I mean, all I would say is, I think we have to be a little careful here. On the one hand, we should, defend DC, of course, in our police department, and we have a relationship with the police department. I do think that in normal times, we would want the federal government sometimes to get involved, because the DC government isn't always doing what they need to do. And in fact, the federal government does that they often will look at police departments in different cities, usually in Democratic administrations, but they will look at them to make sure that they're complying with civil rights laws and things like that. So, the idea that the federal government might be involved to some extent is not a bad thing generally. And, I think we need to remember that. For example, we are having the education department right now look at DC public schools because they have this very high, rate of due process hearings, which is, in my view, unconstitutional. It's problematic that they have that, and it's something that does need to be investigated by the federal government. Having said that, and we've also been critical of the DC Police Department for not doing enough for people with mental health disabilities, neurodivergence, etc. I think the concern here with the way that this is being done is that I don't see the federal government right now with this takeover being focused on that either, though. We're learning about a lot of people being picked up, detained. There's concerns about due process. There's concerns about being able to find out who they are. Obviously, what's happening with the homeless population in DC, is we need to know more about that. And is there adequate shelter space? What's happening? What's the impact of that? But in terms of people with disabilities, I don't know exactly how we would get at this. So I think we should continue to engage the MPD like we are. I don't know if there's anyone to engage with the federal government. I'd like them to do more for people with disabilities too. And in fact, if they're going to be exercising control over the police department for more than 30 days, they may be the ones we need to engage with. But I also recognize, and I see Catherine raised her hand, that, we're limited in this regard. We're an agent of the DC government. So, I don't know how much we can do. When we talked about going to, members of Congress to try to get them to get DC to do more in the Medicaid area, we were told that we were limited and that we could really only talk to Eleanor Holmes Norton. So I don't know what we can do here. I think that it is a little bit more complex because DC has not always done a great job for people with disabilities either, to be honest. Catherine?
Yeah, no, you're right. And then, if you look back, depending on how far, there were definitely things that DC didn't do well. My comment is more a word of caution on, fact sheets. If we're having trouble even figuring out what would go on, recommendations, if we, if you're like, well, MPD doesn't know what to advise people to do to have an interaction with ICE, for example, to go well. I would be very, very cautious about putting something together to advise people to do something if there isn't a pretty concrete reason for why you should do this and not that, that sort of thing. I mean, it would be great to have something like that, but I think there's a bit of chaos and not, and some of the things that people have seen and experienced with, various law enforcement agencies and National Guard in the city, that I'm not sure there is any particularly good, clear guidance that you could give for this will go well if you do fill in the blank thing. So I did put in a link about a Know Your Rights. That's not specific to people with disabilities, but I did put a link in the chat there that folks can look at about if you're stopped or if this happens, then some advice from a legal assistance
Yeah.
group.
Did that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's just my little word of caution. The idea is great, but it seems like it would be very hard to do well with the information we have or trying to figure out where to get it.
Well, I briefly looked at the link you sent, and it definitely is a potential start. You know what I'm saying? Just knowing the general information, not, I shouldn't say not pertaining just to our community, but just to know what they're saying to do now. Shawnee, is your hand up?
I just want to offer clarity and just scale this back. My suggestion was actually for family to family. In an event that something happens and the individual with the disability is still in the home, is still eligible for services, and we need a safety plan in place. I would suggest that, like Catherine said, if MPD doesn't know what to do, there's no way that we'll be able to figure it out. And I think when you talk about the legal elements, you leave that up to attorneys. I'm more concerned about families that have the individual still in the home when and or if ICE does come, or a family member might even be arrested by the National Guard and then transported through the local system. So I just want to make that very clear. What I'm talking about is internal. It doesn't take a whole lot of to me consideration. It is individualized for that individual and for that family and or for the support family that will be assisting and vice versa. So that was my suggestion. I just want to offer clarity on that.
Thank you, Shawnee, which is why I said about the making a plan about how to support that person if that happens. And hopefully that was in the right vein of what you were saying, Shawnee. Okay. Thank you. Any other comments, concerns, before we kind of make a wrap up, because it is 10 minutes before the meeting's over. Is your hand back up, Shawnee?
Yes, it is. I wanted you to finish, but my suggestion, I know that Jose had came in over from DDS, and I would like, as Craig suggested, to also evaluate and assess the complaint process through DDS. So I'm all for that. That's it.
Thanks, Shawnee. Yeah. Yeah, I had a conversation with Catherine about all these things, and then this is what happened, right? When we came to the meeting, so I guess we were all on somewhat of the same vein, right? As we had this discussion. So yes, thanks, Craig, for the suggestion of going deeper to even ask those questions about what does the appeals, the complaints, the grievances, what are those numbers and what they entail, and all those other details. Good idea. So with that being said, there's a lot that was said today. So we have a lot of work to do. We still, to some degree, are still set in, well, we do have a potentially another subcommittee group would be DDS, right? because we already have Medicaid and we still have MPD. So there will be some need to kind of look through those things when it comes to DDS. Hopefully we can set up, oh, thank you, Catherine, which is what I'm trying to say. Let's set up a meeting to look at the complaint process and allow them to come to explain that and hopefully bring some of that data to us as well. And to, and I might add, when we talk about the complaint process, well, when we ask them that, they're hopefully will bring the data, but also share, hopefully they can share, and that's another question for them, of what types of complaints they were. I mean, it's not just knowing how many complaints, but what are the areas that you're getting complaints and appeals for? So we definitely would want that as well. Okay, everyone has the link or has completed the meeting schedule Survey Monkey. Adrian, do I still need to get that to you, right? Or do you have it? I can't hear you.
And Daisy can give me hers if she
About
wants
that.
to. Or
So
Well,
are we
I can't get
able
to
to
it.
are we able to get the Survey Monkey via email, or I mean, not just on the,
I will.
because as I said, I'm having some technological challenges, so I can try to copy it, but it might not go where it needs to go. So would we be able to get the Survey Monkey today online?
Yeah, we can send that because everyone else that wasn't here needs to complete it as well. So,
Yeah.
Catherine, if you could send that out to the within the meeting invitation, or whatever, you can just
Yep.
include
I'm
that.
not going to send it to that because then you might get some responses from
Oh,
not
that's
voting
true. That's
members.
true.
If you're
That's-
looking for voting members, that we have some of our other standard invitees. So we may
Okay.
want to
I would like
shift.
to.
I was thinking of the one you just sent to the council. I thought you just sent, when you sent the meeting invitation, I thought that just went to the council. That goes to everybody. I didn't realize.
Or just to the people that are like standard, like designees and stuff like that. So it's not very many
okay.
other people, but it might muddy your
Yeah.
your data a little bit. You have two
That's
people that
fine.
have
If you
responded
can just
already.
send
Thank
it
you,
at-
people.
Yeah, if you can just send it a different in an email, that would be great. And then know your rights, ICE and the future planning.
Mhm.
Okay, great.
Tyrone,
I would, I just wanted to add with the complaint process, I think that would be a great thing to look at over the course of the year, so, and so it would be great to have the presentation about how to take it through a complaint process. Also, though, the statistics, it would be helpful to get information on the complaint process, how long it takes, how many are filed every year, what is the percentage adjudicated, where they're sustained or where they're found not to be sustained. And then what are the amount of, what percentage lead to a claim of retaliation? I mean, regardless of whether we've had different statements made about retaliation, but it would be interesting to know what the statistics are on that and what are the findings related to retaliation. I would be interested in knowing that and seeing if there are ways that we can improve our complaint process. And one other thing I'll say, because I see Chioma's going to go next. I want to be very clear. I'm not saying that we should be supportive of what's going on with the federal government. All I'm saying is, I think we need to focus very much on people with disabilities and what's happening to them with what's going on now, whether it be the DC government or the federal government or whoever it is. I don't feel like any of these governments have really done right by people with disabilities. But I agree with you. We should generally be supportive of our own home rule. I agree with you. I just wanted to be clear, though, that we need to be looking now with people who are intellectually or developmentally disabled, what's happening. So if they're being picked up, are their due process rights being followed? And after the federal government goes away and we're back with DC, what's happening to them when they go to the DC jail? Which, by the way, the federal government should look at the DC jail because it's not a good place, the DC jail, and it needs a lot of reforms. I used to be in Miami-Dade County, and they actually came in during the Obama administration under CRIPA, and they took over, to some extent, took over the jail and made it much better. So, and I'm not saying that you need to trust this administration to do that, but there is a proper role for federal oversight, and then there's an improper federal oversight. So that was the only point I was making.
All right, thank you, Craig. Chioma, Shawnee, and Adrian.
Yeah, sorry. I did have
Minutes
to take
to
a
let
work call and I stepped out for a second, so I'm sorry if it's this redundant. I missed what Shani had to say earlier, but yeah, I do. I totally appreciate and respect what I understand to be where you're coming from, Craig, right? I know that disability services do suck. Our, governments can and must do better. However, I don't know if you're libertarian, but if that's part of like, and I don't know any libertarian that's looking happily at, the federal government coming into like that's like anti-libertarianism, period. But like, whatever, I'm definitely if you're hawking, then I don't like that at all, right? Like that's like, but in the spirit of like, I think for the record, I want to say that the reality that I think that yes, I don't want disabilities to become the excuse as to why our democratic rights are infringed upon. I want us in this space to, be free to have our ideas and opinions, and that's why we're here together as a body. But I do strongly want to say that it is a huge error in any kind of precedence that we are experiencing what we're experiencing. This cannot happen the way it's happening anywhere else in America. Our American citizenship rights are being infringed upon. Nowhere else can they do this. And so we are definitely not worse than some others. There's states that perform way worse than DC when it comes to disability, homeless, housing. Yeah, we can improve. Yeah, we must improve. But I need everyone's DC pride-o-meter to go way up right now, because this is not the moment where we need to be opening the door for particularly our children to be under something that we don't even know what we're exposing them to, and any other kind of vulnerable person, in the community. So I just want us to, I support diversity in thought. I do love conservative thinking on some level, but I'm not with this at all. Like, do what you want with the education system, sure, let it all go. We need to revamp, rescrap, redo that sucker all over again. I don't know where that puts me in Project 2025, but I'm not with anything that's happening right now. Let's just be clear for the record, free DC. Period.
I just want you to know I'm not a libertarian. I'm a moderate Republican. Not a lot of them in DC, but I work with Democrats all the time. I was OFCCP director, so
Well, I want to temper
you.
your
And
hawkish
I
tendencies.
support DC statehood. I support DC. I support DC. I'd love to see a Republican get elected one day. But the point is, on this committee, apolitical. I'm apolitical.
No comment on the Republican. Unless it's the
maybe
Catania
a
kind of
moderate
person.
Republican. You
Unless
never
it's
know.
Catania
Maybe a
coming back,
moderate.
I don't want to hear it.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Okay. All right, Shawnee, and then Adrian.
Okay, so in reference to the complaint process, all the elements that Craig mentioned are great. I would also like to take it a step further, to include data where actual complaints have been moved to the judicial system. So have transferred from DDS as a complaint to now to OAH. Okay. Another thing I would like to, what I think is worth looking into is data, not just for the complaints, not just in reference to services, but complaints in reference to pay. There have been parents or families who have made complaints in reference to not getting paid. So I want to include those as well, and just ensure that we all know that there's an internal and an external complaint process for DDS.
Thank you, Shawnee.
And there are categories for, I think, all of those things that could be part of that discussion. Yep.
Right. Just making sure we get all of those, which is kind of what I was saying, that they define or give clarity about what the complaints are that are occurring and what processes they're taking. Thank you, Shawnee. Adrian?
Yes. I don't do a lot of talking. I do a lot of note taking. So I just wanted to add a little bit, and I won't take long at all because I know we're at the end of our time. We have several people amongst us, and not just Family Support Council, but we have some very significant folks that are advocates that are within our own network that I would really love to see have opportunity for them to speak during at least one of our meetings, because it's been helpful in multiple occasions, that I've seen where people have been able to get some real-time information for all the research that the advocates are out here doing. And I'm sure everybody on this call knows how much you guys are doing, or how much we're all doing or attempting to do. So I think that it's great to have where it's wonderful to have the folks from the larger bodies, the agencies, to come in and give their documentation. The advocates do a lot of work in terms of having a lot of information and a lot of resources that I think would be exceedingly helpful, especially when we're on calls that are public calls as well, where people can actually hear from people directly who do this, who are family, who are caregivers for their family members, or caretakers, or uh watching over their family members. So that's it. I just wanted to express that, and a lot of the information that the advocates tend to put forth seems to be very much a real-time situation. And that's it.
Thank you, Adrian. Again, like I said, Craig said, great meeting, discussion. It is 2:34, but if there is any upcoming events or things going on, for a lot of organizations and agencies within our community, the end of the fiscal year is September 30. So usually, it's very, very busy in September, as we're all trying to close out grants and things like that, and having events, and school has started, and all these things are going on. But again, thankful for each one of you and your input. Please stay diligent to your emails and responsive to them. We'd appreciate that. And make sure that you complete the Survey Monkey. Catherine has already agreed. Thank you, Catherine, to send probably several things now via email. And please be sure to read all of it. If there's anything you need in any way, feel free to give me a call. And I hope that you all have a good long weekend and stay safe. And from me to you, be in God's care. All right. Thank you all.
I'm adding a couple
Thank
of
you.
resources and opportunities to the chat as you're
Oh,
exiting. Thank you, Taiki, for the men's health event information that
You're
I collected there.
welcome.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a survey
Yep.
when we exit? Is there a survey when we exit?
That was another one of the things that
Okay. All right.
whatever the issue is with being able to launch things in this account,
Okay.
then
Maybe next time we'll have
no.
them.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.